Hi everyone, welcome to Hatchlands Park in Surrey, where you're going to be doing some location drawing with me, or you're going to watch me do some location drawing. I want to talk to you a bit about location drawing, and I also want to talk to you about developing a looser style of painting, which is something I've been working towards over the past few months. So I should just say at this point that this footage was filmed by Dominic. It was brilliant to have him there with me because he could get angles that I wouldn't have been able to get had I been doing all of the filming on my own. So we've since actually filmed another video, which is coming up on YouTube, hopefully this weekend, where he filmed me doing more location drawing. Well, in fact, location painting was what I was doing in the other one. Anyway, we went to Hatchlands Park. I was determined to try and do a bit of location drawing. I'm not comfortable drawing on location, but it's something I really, really want to do. So I've been trying to push myself to do it over the past couple of years or so, every now and again. By the way, that's Dominic's hand holding a pine cone. He was looking at some pine cones while I was drawing. But yeah, he got some amazing shots of both Hatchlands Park, and also I really like the way he filmed me. It's kind of like you can see me a little bit, but I'm not really on camera all that much, and I'm comfortable with that. So anyway, I took my big Sendak roll. So I've since bought a mini Sendak as well, which is the topic of the YouTube video that's coming up. But I took my big Sendak and I'd filled it with Derwent drawing pencils. I thought, I'm not going to paint, I'm going to keep things simple, and I'm just going to use the pencils. But when I got there, because I had a few luminants in there as well, and my beloved Payne's Grey was in there, for a few reasons I decided that I would just keep it simple and use just the Payne's Grey pencil. So I'm working on this very, very wonky sketch of Hatchlands Park. And it basically went wonky because I was a little bit nervous when I was drawing, and there were people coming, and I looked up and my line kind of went wonky, and balancing it on my lap was not that easy. It's quite a small sketchbook, as you can see. But yeah, I just thought I'd embrace the wonkiness from that moment in. But I didn't have much time. I had to be super quick when I was drawing this because it was already quite late in the day by the time we got around to finding somewhere for me to draw, because we'd been in the house and we'd kind of been exploring, and we wanted to just kind of have like maybe 15 minutes or something so that we could then go and explore the grounds a little bit more, which you'll see a bit more of later because I filmed that for you as well. But yeah, so I had time constraints. I was a little bit on edge because I was drawing in public, although there weren't that many people around. And also, it was threatening to rain the entire time we were there. The weather this July has been really quite crazy, and we've had a lot of very rainy days, like really quite stormy days. So yeah, I had all of those factors, and I'm somebody who's so used to drawing or painting in my studio, like in a very controlled environment. So yeah, it was quite a challenge, and as you can see, it's just a very, very basic little sketch, but I felt good knowing that I'd actually made myself do it, because every time I take these baby steps into location drawing, it's getting me to where I eventually want to be, which is someone who's really comfortable with sitting there painting outside. Anyway, there's my lovely Sendak roll. Such a great investment, this piece. I love it so much. Anyway, I think what I'll do is I'll stop talking for a couple of minutes just so you can enjoy the gorgeous surroundings of Hatchlands Park and this little slice of the English countryside, and then I'll come back. So you will have seen in this video so far me drawing in my small sketchbook on location. So I drew a very wonky version of Hatchlands Park. It wasn't meant to be perfect, but it wasn't meant to be quite as wonky as it was. However, I thought it's just a sketch and it's okay. It's just getting me used to working on location and getting me used to drawing buildings other than my little white houses. So, I mean, you can't get much more different to my little humble white cottages than a great big mansion. So I thought I'll come back into the studio, and I had a slightly different image of like a different view of the house. And I thought I'll keep it simple and just use some graphite pencils. So I used the Faber-Castell Pitt Graphite Matte Pencils. So these are supposedly non-shiny graphite pencils, because you know normally when you use graphite, especially if you apply it quite heavily like I have here, it can be it kind of has a sheen to it, doesn't it? Which I don't really like all that much. So I was quite keen to use these pencils. I bought them a while ago and had barely touched them. And I think they're very good. They're very good pencils. If you want something that's really nice and dark, they're a fantastic pencil to use. And I always like Faber-Castell products anyway. But I quickly discovered that I didn't enjoy working on this. There are reasons why I didn't. So I decided to write on the page so that I don't forget the lessons I learned. So number one was I don't enjoy drawing with just graphite pencil. And I really don't. And I think the reason for that is that I just enjoy colour. Even if I'm using just one colour, at least it's a colour. I don't know, there was something about the graphite pencil. I don't know, I quickly lost interest. It felt quite boring to me to just work on this scene in just the pencil. Anyway, I've discovered that I don't like using pencils like this, like just for making a complete drawing. I'll use them for quick sketches, marking out a painting or whatever, like the general composition, but I'm not going to be somebody, I think, who draws in pencil. Anyway, number two was I spent too much time on the tree or not enough time on the house. The styles don't match up, and they don't. Like the tree took me probably about half an hour. I was doing a lot of layering and everything, and then I got to the house and it was like this really simple, very, I don't know, it lacks a bit of depth. It's kind of like, I don't even know what to call it really. It's just not very good. And I just feel like it doesn't match up with the style of the tree, but I couldn't do it really heavily or it'd all be too heavy. And you can see I marked out another tree here, like the tree trunk, but it just, I don't know, I completely lost interest. I had absolutely no desire to continue with this. And there was a part of me that was like, you need to carry on with this because you must finish it. And then I was like, no, I don't have to finish it. This is my sketchbook. This is my art. I can do whatever I like, and if I want to give up, I can give up. And so I'll leave this page in my sketchbook because it's a learning process, and that's why I wanted to write down here the things I learned. And I would advise you maybe on pieces that you didn't enjoy working on, or you don't feel that they worked as a drawing or a painting. Write down the lessons that you learned. You can write down what you liked and what you didn't like. It's just a really good little, I don't know, like what do they call it? An aide-memoire, is that the right phrase? So when you go back, you'll remember exactly why you stopped that piece, or why you don't like it, or why you did. Or you might see new things. When you go back to pieces, you might see other things that you really, really love. That you didn't at the time. So anyway, it's interesting to take notes. I think a sketchbook should be somewhere perhaps where you also take notes sometimes, but of course you don't have to. It's your own sketchbook, and just do whatever you feel comfortable in doing, but I find it quite useful. Anyway, the last thing was number 3, my lessons learned. Graphite pencil is so messy. Graphite pencil is just not fun for me because it was smudging everywhere. I've got an eraser and I've kind of like tried to clean this page up, but it was like my hand was resting on the page and it was like dragging the graphite across. I didn't like it. I just couldn't stand the fact that the pencil was getting where it shouldn't, and I wanted to leave negative space and it was just getting dirty. Anyway, then I decided, okay, I'm going to take a completely different approach to this. And so I worked on this piece. Now you will probably have seen this. I'm going to weigh that down that end. This was actually, I'll just take that out because that's bothering me. This was actually featured in a post on Patreon the other day. When I completed it, I really wanted to show you because I felt I'd had a breakthrough. So in that post, I talk all about this breakthrough. There are so many things I want to say about this, and what can I say? Okay, first of all, I've been trying to find a way to work on houses that, and I mentioned this I think in the post, that breaks away from my usual little white house. For some reason I've got it into my head that I can only paint those little white cottages. I go to, because I'm a National Trust member, I go to loads of National Trust properties. I live in the countryside in England. It is full of the most gorgeous cottages and beautiful houses, like grander houses, Tudor houses, Victorian houses. It has everything. And I often see houses and I take so many photos of them when I'm out with Dominic, thinking I'd love to work from this photo later on. And I never get around to it because I'm always so scared of, if I'm going to do like a house like this, which is kind of like a grander house, and it had this part here that was kind of standing out from the rest, and I'd be worried about the angles, and I think, well, I have to get the angles right, or people will just think I'm a bad drawer or a bad painter. It's going to look babyish, it's going to look immature, it's going to look like I can't paint. All of these things go around in my head. And this is crazy because as somebody who loves more naive art and folk art, now I know my art has a kind of folk art style. I've been told this a lot, but somebody once described it as sophisticated folk art, and I think I know what they mean. It's folk art, but without being loose, without being kind of rough. It's very, my usual work is very polished and very neat. And what I want to do for my own joy, as much as anything else, is to break away from that and to feel like it doesn't matter what I see in front of me, I can tackle this, I can paint this. Because I've had this mental block where I've wanted to paint so many things and I keep telling myself I can't do it. It's like I said, I'll be like, no, I can't do that. There's too many angles. This house is too complex. How am I going to make this work in my style? Or it's so complex that in my normal style, it would take me days or weeks to paint, depending on the size of the painting. You know, if I was working on a big canvas and I want to put lots of houses in, like for example, when you, I don't know, say if you're looking across a scene and you have like the fields and the hills and you have like a little hamlet of houses, like several. I mean, I think the most I've ever done in a painting is maybe 3 houses. It used to take me so long to do the houses that the thought of putting in a lot of houses in that style was just overwhelming. And it's made me so that I stick to, I would say it's kind of a formula. I mean, I'm always pushing it a little bit and trying new things, but I'm kind of stuck with just doing the little lone house or maybe a couple of houses at most. And I've wanted to do all sorts of styles of houses, beautiful beamed Tudor houses and ornate Victorian houses and all of this. And these amazing stately homes and mansions that we go and visit when we go to National Trust properties. But I haven't allowed myself to do it because I've been like, I can't do this. It's not going to work in my style. It's going to take too long. Da, 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 da. If the angles are slightly off and you're painting very precisely, it looks wrong but if the angles are off and you're painting more loosely, it looks right. That's what I'd say, basically. If I had to sum it up in a nutshell, that is what I'd say. And I hope that this is making sense. I feel like I've got so much to say and I'm not sure I'm saying it correctly, but I worked on this just with an utter sense of joy. I was like, I'm going to paint this house. I'm going to get my gouache palette. I'm going to get my coloured pencils. We'll do a bit of coloured pencil over the top to add some detail, which I did. I've added a little bit of detail on the tree in coloured pencil, on both of these trees actually. And here I did these little details over the top of the gouache, just adding like little, just like little leaf shapes really, like these little clusters of leaves. I just wanted to add something, kind of layer it a little bit. And so here we have a little bit of pattern on these bushes here and on the trunk of the little palm tree. And I actually did the windows in coloured pencil as well, and some of the lines on the roof and all of that kind of thing. So I just thought, I'm gonna go in there. I went in there without any pre-planning. I didn't plan this out in pencil first. I just went in straight with the paintbrush, and this is what I'm finding works for me if I want to stay loose, is to not draw the scene beforehand. Because if I try and draw it, I'm making everything, it's like my perfectionist streak is coming in again, and I'm making everything way too precise. And then it just doesn't work because it looks tight, it looks awkward. And I think what I need to do to have success with this new style is to just go for it and to just let it be wonky. So I'm calling these my wonky houses. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now try, with the confidence I feel I have now after working on this piece of Hatchlands Park, I'm going to just choose an image from Unsplash, which is a royalty-free, copyright-free website. You can use their images to make artwork. So I'm going to choose a photo of a house, and I'm just going to do the same as I did here. I'm going to work in gouache and coloured pencil, and I'm going to just have fun with it. It's going to be wonky, it's going to be layered, it's going to, however it turns out, I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Hello, it's Editing Natasha again. So I'm going to be working on a house painting using gouache and coloured pencil. So kind of in a similar way to how I worked on the previous piece. And I've chosen a house that I would normally not have tackled. And the reason for this is that I would have felt like it was just way too, I don't know, complex. I don't know whether it's like, it's not overly ornate or anything, but it has quite a few windows, and I would have worried about that and getting them precise, and I'd have worried about the angles and all of that. But when I tell myself that I'm just going to work on a wonky house and just to have fun, it takes all of that pressure off. And I can honestly say that I enjoy painting like this so much more than my normal way of painting. So I know that I'm in the early stages of developing this slightly new style, but I'm really excited about it, and I already feel like it's giving me more confidence and like I'm enjoying my art more. So yeah, I should just talk to you, I guess, a little bit about what I'm doing. So I went in there straight away with a brush. I didn't do any pencil sketching beforehand or anything like that, because I think I mentioned this earlier, that the thing that allows me to be able to paint slightly more loosely is if I don't do a preliminary pencil drawing. So I just go in with the paint. I don't map out where anything's going to go other than with the paint. And once you put that paint on the paper, it's pretty much, I mean, that's it. You can't really, like if I was doing a pencil sketch, I'd be sketching, checking the angles, erasing. I'd be trying to get everything really precise, and that's not what I want to do here. The idea is to give myself the freedom to paint whatever I want to paint without putting unnecessary pressures on myself, I suppose you could say. So yeah, the first layers are with gouache. So I'm using my Art Toolkit palettes that I have filled with gouache paint, and I'm finding that I'm using these all the time. I just, once again, like to recommend the Art Toolkit palettes. When my gouache was in tubes, I found that I was hardly ever using it. I don't know whether this is just me or whether any of you have this problem as well, but it's like I need to see the paints in a palette and just be able to grab that palette. And I find that I'm using them all the time. And do you know what? I love gouache paint. It's like I know that I've always used it to some degree, but a lot of the time I was using acrylic gouache, and this is just traditional gouache. So it's re-wettable, unlike acrylic gouache, which once it's dry, you can't re-wet it. So yeah, a variety of brands. I don't actually have any one particular favourite brand of gouache. Pretty much all of the ones I've tried have been good. So that could be Winsor & Newton, the Schminke gouache, Holbein, all sorts of different brands. They're all good. So yeah, I'm not brand loyal. But yeah, so what am I doing here? I'm trying to, at this point, fill in the little window panes. And even though I have a smaller brush, I kind of felt like I needed a slightly smaller brush. So I switched to that one, but I'm not doing it in the ultra precise way that I would normally do it. So I'm just kind of like mapping them in. And I knew that I was going to use coloured pencil once all of this was dry to go over the top. So I thought if I need to kind of add a bit more, like in the way of not window panes, what am I trying to say? Like the little wooden bits, the window frames, that's the one. I thought I can do that, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And I just, again, embraced the wonkiness. And I think this is going to be key to the success of these new pieces. And as I say, it's still early days. I'm still developing this style, but it has brought back so much joy into my painting. And I kind of feel like I spend so much of my life creating art because I'm passionate about it. I can't imagine not creating art. I love it. I love everything about it. I love colours. I love the texture. I love the feeling of paint. Oh yeah, I said that I was going to try and teach myself Procreate and do digital art. I don't want to do digital art. I'm just using my iPad for all sorts of other stuff. I have given up on the idea of teaching myself Procreate. You know what? I'm not a digital artist. I love the feeling of paint too much. I just want to work like this. So I feel like I spend so much time looking at a screen anyway that, frankly, I think if I was doing digital art as well, why can't I say digital art? It's really hard. If I was doing digital art, I would just be spending more time looking at a screen and not getting my hands dirty and not enjoying the way the paint feels on paper or canvas. And do you know what? I love real paint. This is what I want to do. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but this is like one of my podcasts, isn't it? I've gone off on a tangent, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. And so I spend so much of my time painting, to get back to what I was saying, that I want to enjoy it. And I feel like it was getting to the stage where, because I was trying to make my work so neat and so precise, I was tensed up all the time. It's caused me so many problems with my body, like with my muscles, lots of tension, lots of pain. And it shouldn't be like that. Art should be like this joyful moment of creation. And so this is, I guess what I'm trying to do is like reclaim back my joy in art. Now, don't get me wrong, I always enjoy painting regardless. But this is, for me, so much more fun. And I feel like it's going to be a much healthier thing for me. It was also really hard on my eyes doing such precise work. And it caused migraines, all sorts of stuff. It really, really sometimes very difficult. It's like I'd be really happy with the finished paintings, but I had kind of like, I don't know, I felt so tense when making them sometimes. Not always, but just sometimes. Anyway, this is why I want to get back to this looser way of painting. So if you just say to yourself, I'm going to embrace the wonkiness, then you can just keep on painting. It's like it doesn't necessarily go wrong. It's like you just keep working on it. You just keep adding, like you can see me adding like different bushes, different trees, different details. I was just like, yeah, it doesn't look quite right, just add a bit more. Doesn't look quite right, just add a bit more. Add a bit more detail here. Don't be too precise. You know, it's like I'm like normally I'd be so exact. Anyway, this is, I basically cut there and did the coloured pencil bit off camera because I just wanted to experiment and not be on camera. But there you go. This is how this looks. This is the finished piece. And we're going to go back to Natasha in the studio now. Okay, so here's my second wonky house, and I am so pleased with how it turned out. I had so much fun working on this. I'm not going to say too much because I feel like I will have covered it. I'm going to do a voiceover over the top of the process, and I haven't recorded that bit yet, but I'm obviously going to talk to you about lots of different elements, like how I felt when I was working on this, the decisions I made and all of that kind of stuff. So I think I'll just end this video by saying that I had such a lot of fun working on this. It's wonky, it's imperfect, it has character, and I don't feel by any means that this is exactly how I want these to be. I feel like it's a process, but this is, I feel like I'm getting there basically. And I love the way, actually I'm going to say I love the feeling this has. I love the character it has. The fact that I've allowed myself to not worry too much about the angles. I mean, obviously I've worried a little bit, or it'd just be a complete mess on the page, but I've just tried all the way through just to have fun with it and just experiment. So yeah, the windows aren't completely accurately spaced. You know how long I would normally take doing something like that? Forever. And it takes the joy out of painting. It's like if I'm worried about, oh dear, this window is 2 millimeters closer to that one than it is to that one, and they should be evenly spaced. You know, I feel like I've ruined the whole painting usually when I think something like that. But because this is meant to be wonky, it's deliberately wonky, it doesn't matter. And I think it's all the better for it. And so I'm going to keep going with this. And I hope if, I don't know, if I could say anything to you or you take away anything from this video, I hope it's that if there's something that's holding you back in your art, that you can look at what I did. There's somebody who was completely stuck. And I wouldn't say, you know, I'm not like, you know, working on the same thing over and over and over, in that I'm not experimenting, always experimenting and changing it up slightly and working with different colour palettes and trying, I don't know, slightly different ways of doing things. But I always stuck to, when it came to buildings, the little white house. I have very, very rarely deviated from that. I think I have once or twice and that's it. But now I can look at all these beautiful houses that I see around me, so many that I could paint, so many that I'd want to paint, and now I feel I actually can paint. Whereas before I would have looked at them and kind of thought, I really, really want to paint that, but I'm never going to be able to do it in my style. So I hope that if there's one thing you take away from this video, it's that if I can do it, you can do it. So what I want you to do is go and pick up your sketchbook or a loose sheet of paper or whatever, and start painting the thing that you have always wanted to paint, but you've somehow told yourself that you can't do it. Okay, I'm going to end that there. Go and do it. Okay, everyone, I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for being here. Bye.